Hi, everybody. It's your digital Falcon, Dr. Fidelio, and in this video training, I'm going to share with you how to use Google Meet, but more specifically, how to use the new feature called Google Jamboard, what it's all about. I'm going to share my screen. I'm going to share how to create a Google Jamboard, why you would want to use a Google Jamboard, and then more specifically, how to drop it into your classroom as an assignment. And so we're super excited to be showcasing this with you. I do have to say that I guess one of the little case studies that I've seen is with Mr. Devlin at Resaca Middle School. He's one of our 6th, 7th, 8th grade science teachers. And he said, Jesse, I want to create an interactive like Google slideshow, but not a Google slideshow for my students. What can I use? And so it's actually, the answer to that is Jamboard. And so I said, so there's this Jamboard application. And he was like, well, what is Jamboard? Let's just start there. What is it, right? Exactly. And so I said, okay, so have you ever heard of a smartboard? Or like a Mimeo or something like that? And he goes, yeah, I've heard of smartboards, like the big, bulky, like screens that are on wheels. I said, yeah, exactly. The smartboard. Well, Google created their very own, and it's called Jamboard, and it's this interactive little display. Not little, really. It's a big, nice little screen, right, on wheels and stuff that you can get embedded into your classroom wall, or you can have it kind of roam from one classroom to another classroom. Very similar to a smart projector screen. And to do that, to actually use it and to kind of have your students engage in it, you need to have the Google Jamboard software or the application be on that device, right? So in the midst of all of this pandemic, Google has released Jamboard Web, or the web version of Jamboard, right? Which is what I'm going to be sharing with you today. So no longer do you need that big projector on wheels. You can literally do it from your computer. Good thing is that if your students are at the pre-K K1 and they requested a device, chances are they probably have an iPad. The Jamboard application is on the iPad. If your students are using a district-issued laptop, so that would be like 2nd through 12th, and it's a district-issued laptop, and if they're signed in with their district credentials or 434, then they can use Jamboard if it's integrated into your Google Classroom or a Google website that you create, a Google site, anything like that. So let's kind of unveil it. What is it exactly? So it allows for interactive activities that you create, okay, that you create. So kind of imagine a Google slideshow, but a little bit less crazy in that, like, whatever you drop in there, the students can access. They can kind of move stuff around. And it's very similar to a slideshow or like a PowerPoint. Okay, so I'm going to share my screen with you just so that you can see. I'm going to present, and I'm going to present my entire screen so that you can see everything that I see here. And give me a thumbs up if you can see my screen. You should see just this white little box, right? And you're probably wondering, well, what is this exactly, right? So this is the Jamboard application, and it's through Google. So to get here, you can just type in www.jamboard.google.com. And if you're still struggling, it's okay. You can click on the 9 little squares or 9 circles or the app launcher or the waffle at the very top, and you can just scroll down all the way down till you get to Jamboard. And you basically have like an orange square, a lighter orange square, and a circle that's kind of like goldish yellow. When you click on it, it will take you to an untitled jam, which is this right here. And basically what you have slides, and you can kind of just add as many slides as you want. And you have these tools on the left-hand side that you can kind of embed. These tools that are on the left-hand side are not only available to you, but they're available to your students, which are going to be the end user of this Jamboard, right? So at the very top of this little layout, I have my pen, but notice if I click and hold down, I'm able to see that I have other things from like a marker to a highlighter to a little brush. Don't have that many colors that I can use, but if I go to my pen, I can kind of draw this way. If I go back and I grab this other tool, the marker, I can kind of do that. And so there's just different tools that you have here that you have access to, okay? Brushes. Now the magic here is in the idea of collaboration. That's the magic of this, because you're probably thinking, kind of like what I was thinking when I was first introduced with this, was, okay, well, it's basically like paint, right? Well, yes, it's just like paint in many ways. However, you can then share this link and drop this link in your Google Meet session. So if I were to drop this in my Meet session right now, every one of my students that's in here, all 24 of you, would be able to access this and be able to drop and draw, and you'd be able to clear everything if you wanted to clear everything. You'd be able to add sticky notes to it and type in here. If you are worried that, maybe your class management in this new, frontier that we're in is a little bit like, on the mends, maybe you kind of have to do a little bit of pulling back and sharing, right? So if you wanted to share this in your classroom, but in your heart of hearts, this new wave of classroom management is going to be a little bit tricky, and you're scared that some kid could come in here and draw something really bad, then I would definitely say, let me hold off on that, right? Let's hold off on sharing it. But there's a lot of really great tools that you can drop in here. You can search for example, mountains, and you can put stuff in there. Right now, this is a very unorganized Jamboard. So now I'm going to share with you a very organized Jamboard that I created 3 days ago, just so that you can see. So I'm going to share with you this one here. And if you can just give me a thumbs up if you can see the who can swim faster. Awesome. Okay. So I'm going to zoom in just a tad bit because I do see a couple of you squinting and looking a little bit closer. So I'm going to zoom in, and it isn't letting me zoom in. So I apologize. I'm going to zoom out. Is it getting bigger if I zoom out? Good. Okay, good. My tools on the left-hand side did get smaller, so I apologize for that. I'll just be zooming in and out, okay? So what I want you to see is I put in here who can swim faster, and I did put in there drop a small sticky note with your name on the one you choose. So obviously I'm asking my students who can swim faster, right? And I put a little sticky note there. So I would definitely do something like this for my students, y'all, if my students have never done a Jamboard, just to get them used to some of these tools on the left-hand side and how we can, use this to collaborate. So in this case, I would, have my students come in here, and then they would be able to put a sticky note, and they'd put it wherever they wanted. So in this example that I have right here, I'm in here as one student, okay? Now I'm gonna do a real quick pop quiz of everybody, and let's see how well we know, how well we are when it comes to how versed we are with Google Classroom assignments. So let's see if we know this answer, okay? So when you create a Google assignment in your Google Classroom, whether it's a slide or a Google document or a Jamboard, right, and you drop it in there as a link, how do you make sure that not everybody edits the same document? Question. How do you make sure that not everybody edits the same document?
You make a copy.
You make a copy.
Absolutely. You make sure that every child can have their own copy, right? So there's that little tab that's there, and I'll show you how to do that. But first things first is I want to show you the second slide here. So in this first slide, what I want my students to do is to be able to drop a small sticky note. So that's what I'm going to have them do for this one, right? I brought these photos in from Google. Literally, I went to the little mountain right here, add image, and I searched Google search for sharks, which I'm fascinated with, by the way. And I clicked on one, and I clicked on select, and it just popped itself right in there, right? I'm going to click on it and then just click delete because I really like these 4 images. Notice how my little Bitmoji is there. So I have my Bitmoji that I can kind of embed in there. The very top, I can click on my extension and I can choose any one of these little Bitmojis. I can search for one. I can also just right click, copy, and then using my magic fingers, right? Click Control V for Victor, Control V, and it pastes it right there for me, right? So really cool stuff. And then I can just bring it down, move it around. I can flip it around however way I want. I can even click on these little 3 dots, the little snowman. That snowman never lets us go, right? It's everywhere. I can duplicate it if I want to duplicate it. So if you're doing matching, or if you're in the pre-K kinder and you're like, let's match these things up, right? You can do that. So there's different things that you can do. So in this one, that's all I'm doing. So in my second frame, or my second little Jamboard slide, I put how many continents are there. Drag this circle over the correct number. So for those of you that might be a little bit skeptical, I promise you, I was too. I downloaded Google Jamboard on my iPhone, and I also downloaded it on my iPad, and I shared this link with myself, a copy of it with myself, and I was able to see how on my Jamboard, on my phone, and on my iPad, I'm able to see the same thing. And on my own, I'm able to drag it over. So I'm going to just grab the circle and move it over the 7. Just like so. Oh, and I moved it on my screen too. It moved it on my screen, and I guess the next pop quiz question is, why did it move it on my screen too? Anybody?
It's online, Google Online.
Exactly. Yeah, I'm sharing the same one with myself, right? So that's why it moved. If I was like, oh no, I want to bring it back down here, I can move it down there, and oh, look, it moved it on my phone. Like magic, y'all. It's like magic. It's called Google Jamboard. So this is what I kind of wanted for this one. I typed all this stuff out using the little text box. I want you all to know something. This isn't a very PowerPoint slide like you're not going to have a ton of fonts, which is good, right? Because you don't really want to focus too much on the fonts. You want to focus on the content, right? So when you click on this, notice how I have a couple colors that I can use. I have a couple types of fonts that I can use, but not really. It's the same font, just different sizes. So it definitely keeps it pretty concise, right? Next slide, or next frame, I should say, is name that continent. Click and drag the continent names where they belong, right? So obviously I have some continents in here that are not really continents, right? Like Moscow, right? But I mean, the idea here is I made little text boxes using that little text box generator, and I can kind of just move these around however way I want. Think of how you could use this. So if those of you are in biology and maybe like anatomy, you could kind of label stuff in here. It does not have to be history, social studies, continents, all of that, all right? So you can definitely kind of play with all of this in a really cool way. Now, if I put this link, y'all, in my classroom as an assignment, and I'm working on it, and when I submit it, you're gonna have, let's say I have 26 students or 25 students in this Google Meet, so really 24 because of myself. If I were to put this link into my assignments, I would get 24 of these, okay? And so I'd be able to kind of go through. Unfortunately, it isn't like Google Forms where it's like a survey and you're getting that data, the number right and wrong. Here you would have to kind of go in and make sure and say, okay, you know what, Jesse does not know his continents, you know? So I definitely need to reteach this, right? So in that respect, you have that, right? Currently, there isn't, I mean, it doesn't mean it's gonna be this way forever, but currently you can't like integrate a YouTube video in it just yet. But I mean, They are updating this, so hopefully in the next coming, days, months, or something, we'll see some more updates. But this is by no means the only Jamboard training. We're hopefully going to have more with subject matters. I think that would be pretty awesome. Place the scientific methods, I should say, right? Or is it method? Is it scientific methods in order or method? Method, right? I think it's method. Place the scientific method in order. And so this would allow students to be able to organize these in the way that they need to be. Again, these are just little Post-its, and I tried to use every single color that I could, and then I started using the same colors over again, and then I just kind of dragged them around. Again, just making it interactive for the students. Second to the last one here is I have what are the pros and cons of diving in a cage with shark-infested waters. So you can use this with pro. I'm seeing Lauda Torres laugh, and it's because I'm like fascinated with sharks. I've always wanted to swim with sharks, but they're so intimidating. But at the same time, beautiful and very misunderstood. So what I love about this is that you can really get a lot of feedback from your students. Now, granted, this is just like if I was doing it with one student, but if you wanted multiple students to do this, then in your actual meet, what you could do is you could say, let me share this with all of you right now. Right now, I want to share this with all of you. I'm going to click copy the link, and then I'm going to paste that link in your meet, in that little chat box at the very top, right? And so you paste that link there in that chat box, and I'm just going to practice pasting it in there. I need to move my stuff around here, so I'm going to be off screen for just a tad bit. I apologize. So I would paste it here. Obviously, I'm not going to paste it because I don't want y'all to get in here and accidentally mess it up. There is a reason to my madness. I promise you. You will get to copy this and get to use it however way you want. But this is a pros and cons kind of thing. And then I have this, which I think is wow. When I saw this one, y'all, I was like, okay, you can do so much with this. Underline the subject verb agreement error. Does not have to be subject verb. Okay, I just use this as an example. Anna and Mike is going walking. So notice how, remember in the beginning I showed you that you have that pencil tool or pen. You have that marker, you have that highlighter, you have that little paintbrush. So you can really have your students go in here and kind of just underline stuff and circle stuff, and then you get that feedback from them, and you can say, okay, you know what? Jesse really likes sharks. He does not like sharks. He loves sharks, right? So you can really see that. Notice how I did put some instructions here. I think that's the most important part as you start building these. If you choose to go this direction, right? You can definitely start building these in a way to where you offer instructions for your students. I'm going to go to the last one, and this is the one that I thought was, okay, all right, we're getting somewhere with this. Using the tools on the side, highlight and show how you found the solution. So notice how, again, I have that little pencil tool there, and then I have the highlighter tool. So I can highlight, like if I wanted to highlight in this little aquamarine, or like what my friends say, it's called sea foam. And then my fabulous friends, they don't call it sea foam. They call this Tiffany blue. Don't get it twisted. So I'm like, okay, well, all right. So either way, Tiffany blue or sea foam is the color, and you can highlight really nicely on that. I mean, it kind of takes it off, but I mean, for the most part, you can see what it does, right? So it's really cool. I like it because it helps the students. And again, here's a mathematical problem that's here that, I mean, if it was in Google form, then this could be like an ABCD kind of question, and maybe like snap a photo and upload your work, right? But maybe at the elementary level, I'm just giving this idea out there, maybe at the secondary level, I don't know. Cheryl and Lori started a lemonade stand on Friday. They bought 85 cups. So maybe I want to underline 85 cups. They sold a lot of lemonade and only had 18 cups left. How many cups did Cheryl and Lori use? use this little box to kind of like work your answer out, 85 minus 18, kind of like work that out here so that you can see. What I love about this, the math problem, y'all, is that I don't know if we're talking tutorials yet. I know you're probably thinking like tutorials, oh my gosh, I don't know if we're talking that, but if you did need to do like maybe some tutorials, you could definitely use this and see in real time what your students are doing, what their thought processes are, and you could correct them instantaneously and say, no, 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 Jesse, why would you add 85 plus 18? Why would you do that, mijo? Why would you want to do that? Let's look at this question carefully, and you can really start breaking this question down, right? And so both of you are still seeing the same screen, okay? So there's that in that respect. Now, like I shared with you earlier, to get this, let's say you created, right? You created, or you want to do another slide, you can do another slide, right? And go on with that. You have background, you have dots, you have this little paper one, you have squares or grid, right? So you want to do the X and Y axis, and that's really bad, and I apologize. You can do that. You have a darker grid. You have like this blue one, which is kind of like a chalkboard, kind of, sort of. And then you have black. So if you wanted to go like this route, notice how this really does pop if you kind of get the right one. Look at that. So, I mean, it's just totally up to you how you want to use this. What I like about this too, y'all, is everything that I did over here, I did it using the tools that are here. There are a lot of instructional designers that are out there that are super duper famous on Twitter and on Facebook and on social media. And they use a lot of stuff. I mean, they build stuff like using Google Slides. And then in Google Slides, they save it as a picture. And then they upload the picture, and that picture is the background, So you can really get fancy with this. The purpose of today's training isn't just to like figure it all out and say, oh my gosh, that's it. The purpose of today's training is just to kind of introduce you to some of the tools that are readily available to you. And then we can definitely start, building something with your department or your team. Maybe this is something that you want to use, and we can start having more trainings. I love doing trainings on this. So I think this is really fun. Now, let's say you're ready to push this out. It does not have to be 8 slides or 8, frames. It could just be one, right? But let's say you're ready to push this out. So you go to share. You can copy the link. You can put that link in your Remind. You can put that link in your stream for Google Classroom. If you have a Google Classroom, which all of you do, and you want to add an assignment, you can go to Assignment under Classwork. You can go to the plus Create. Click on Assignment. And again, that's right there under Classwork, plus Create. Go to Assignment. You can give it a fancy title. You can give it some instructions if you want. And then you can add. Now, because it is a Google product, it is a Google Jamboard. So that means that it does go into your Google Drive as the last edited item. So you can go to Google Drive, and you should find it under Recent right there. So I'm going to click on this once. Go to Insert. And you all basically passed that first pop quiz question, right? Which is, how do I make sure that not everybody is editing the same file? And so you want to make sure that you click on this little button here, and you make a copy for every child, right? Now, pop quiz number 4, right? If you wanted everybody to access the same file, to edit the same file, right? And you are 100% sure that your students are not going to draw anything bad, then in that case, you could just leave it the way it is. Students can edit that same file, right? But I'm going to want to make sure that everybody, all 25 of my students that are with me right now, get their own version of this, okay? So I'm going to make a copy for each student. Now, another pop quiz. Let's say Mrs. Armendariz, this is something that she's doing in her class, and this Jamboard right here is only going to go to group 1. And in my group 1, I only have like 5 students in group 1. So this Jamboard is strategically made for group 1, right? So I'm going to go over here to students, and I'm going to deselect all my students, and I'm only going to choose my group 1. So I have Consuelo Juarez, I have Donald Trump, I have Jay Biden, you're welcome, I have Jennifer Elizondo, and I have Jessica Martinez. Those are my group 1 students, right? And so I have my 5 students there. I just had to do it. I just had to. And then I go to topic, and I'm going to add this to my Jamboard assignments. And I don't have to check for plagiarism. And then I'll just go to assign, right? If I'm not sure that I want to assign it just yet, my project starts tomorrow. I can click on this little triangle, and I can schedule it. And I can say this is going to happen on Friday. You know, Friday, I'm going to release this on Friday at 8 a.m. So I can choose 8 a.m. here and then push schedule. Okay. Other than that, I'm not going to schedule it right now because surprise, surprise, I did add a lot of you, not all of you. I think there were some of you that came in a little bit late, but if you registered before 2 p.m. today, then you might be in here as people, or you just need to kind of go to your classroom and accept the invitation. I added you into this Google class just so that you could go to the Jamboard assignment for training purposes in parentheses, and you could see what is Jamboard so that you can actually click on it and see it from the student's perspective. I think that's so important that you see this from the student's perspective so that you can see authentically, yeah, this could work for me. Or you know what, this won't work for me. I'll just stick with Google Slides. I think that's going to work perfect for me. Or I'll just stick with Screencastify. That'll work great for me. But yeah, I definitely wanted to share this with you. And so if you see this class, Dr. Fidelio's film class on the stream, then you'll see that under classwork, you'll have my Jamboard assignment. I'm going to stop sharing really quickly just so that I can see your faces. Let me move this over.
Dr.
Okay.
Fidelio.
Hi, Miss Mariscal. How are you?
Hi. I just wanted to share this. I've used Jamboard and I love it. I'm an elementary dyslexia lab teacher, and I just wanted to share this in case any teachers, I mean, I'm sure it could be used for upper grade levels, but I have small group. So what I did was I created one Jamboard and I uploaded a prefix and suffix worksheet. And I assigned each Jamboard slide to a student. And I numbered it with a sticky note. So number 1 was for a certain student, number 2. And so I added, let's say it was 8 slides. And what I liked about it most was they're working on it and I can just move from slide to slide and see what they're doing interactively. Yes. So it was pretty awesome. And I would spend a little bit of time with each student, and I would, you know, if they were struggling or if they just needed some reinforcement, then I was able to talk to them. Then I went over to the next slide and worked with that student too. It was pretty awesome. I loved it. I loved the interactive part of it, and that I could see what they're doing at that time. So I just wanted to
really happy to hear that.
Yeah.
You don't really get that. You do in some ways with Google Slides. However, Google Slides is super intuitive now. It's totally evolved into this super multimedia presentational tool. And sometimes our students don't need all the glitter and pizzazz. Sometimes they just need like the basic content. And the tools that are on the left-hand side are perfect. I would really like it if Google Jamboard could integrate some kind of like audio component to it, so that you could record your own voice, or maybe have your students record their voice and then you receive it that way. I think that'd be pretty cool for telepass testing, just to double check the student understanding of what it is they're reading or writing. So yeah, or even if they're a science student, for example, and you want for them to explain the flow or the process of something that's taking place. If you're a CTE teacher, you maybe want them to talk about the storyboard and how that process came to be, the role of a position or a job that's out there and what qualifications you need, and you can kind of list them there, you know. So there are ways of doing this creatively, but yeah, that makes me really happy to hear that. The purpose of this is just like I said earlier, just to kind of show you what it is, just so that you're aware of this tool that's out there. Thank you, John, for sharing that wonderful website. He has a great website that's out there, and what I did is I printed all of them out, and I probably shouldn't have printed them out, right? Because I can just use them here, but 20 ideas for using Jamboard in a class. And so I thought that was kind of cool. I was like, wow, this is pretty awesome. So just 20 different ideas. I kind of went through them, and those templates, y'all, from Ditch That Textbook, you click and it forces you to make a copy. I don't know if you've ever clicked on anything and it forces you to make a copy. I'm just kidding. I'm pretty sure now everybody has clicked on something and it's forced them to make a copy, right? But that's what that website does. And so definitely join in on the class and the Google Classroom so that you can see what it looks like from the student perspective. I'll be adding some resources there. Other than that, we have 7 minutes, and I would just love to, you know, tell you thank you so much for everything that you're doing. I am going to stop the recording, and then I will be here to answer any questions that you have, or if you just want to talk, I'm here to answer that way. But the check-in code is Los Fresnos. Let me just put that in here. Check-in code is Los Fresnos. Thank you so much for everything that you're doing. You guys are awesome. Thank you for your commitment to shining a light for our students. Thank you so much.